screen and getting you an important update we're picking up from Afghanistan. America's most wanted terrorist, Khalil Haqqani, is on the streets of Kabul. He can be seen, as you can see in those visuals on your television screens. Now remember, this is a man who carries a bounty of $5 million on his head. So he is one of the most wanted terrorists by America. And today we can see him freely roaming around on the streets of Kabul. Our senior executive editor Abhishek is joining us with more details. Abhishek, not only is he moving around freely, but is also being cheered on. This is something that America should also fear at this point in time.
Well, Christine, ideally America should, but then ideally America should have done a lot of things. For example, kept the Bagram Air Base and not dependent on a civilian airport like Kabul. The Karzai International Airport, and many other things. What is important is that this brings out in open the complicity and the cohabitation that Pakistan has with the Taliban. Though, of course, in the long term, they would also realize what price they are paying. But in the immediate aftermath of this capture or illegal capture of power by Taliban, what is coming out is the Pakistani deep state's involvement, because the Haqqani network has more roots in Pakistan, and their entire leadership has been protected, and it has prospered in Pakistan. And now for the Haqqani network to be ruling the streets of Kabul, officially having been given control of Kabul's law and order situation by the Taliban, clearly shows that it is the Pakistani deep state which is essentially deciding postings and appointments in the new regime that is taking shape, even as talks go on so far as formalizing a government is concerned in Kabul. We have had Indian intelligence agencies reports which clearly showed that cadres of Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed have been, or the foot soldiers of these organizations, Pak-based terror organizations, are already there in thousands and are also patrolling the streets of Kabul. So, in fact, even perhaps some irregulars from the Pakistani army, just to keep control over the panning out of events. I think this is yet another evidence for the world community against Pakistan and in favor of Pakistan's deep connections with the Haqqani network and the Taliban. Despite that, if the world community wants to turn the other way and look other way, I mean, God help the Afghans. But what is important is that in pictures you can see now that someone on whose head America had put a bounty is now effectively in control of Kabul on the 20th anniversary of 9/11.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, more and more evidence is now emerging on Pakistan-Taliban nexus. But this is a man who is on both US and UN terrorist lists along with other members of his family. He's also the uncle of one of Taliban's leaders. And the Haqqani network to which he belongs, remember, operates from the North Waziristan district in tribal areas of Pakistan. Let me quickly bring in Sushant Sareen, who's joining us on the phone line. Sushant, you know, there is growing evidence now of, how in a very well-coordinated manner, both Pakistan and Taliban have gone ahead with this particular mission of taking over Kabul. And this is dangerous. And what remains to be seen is how the world community, the international community, is now going to respond. We're talking about one of America's most wanted terrorists who carries a bounty of $5 million rupees on his head.
Yeah, look, but it's a complicated situation right now. Number one, the Americans had named him a terrorist because at that point of time they were in Afghanistan, they were fighting the war, and this guy was on the other side. So, yes, the Americans named him a terrorist. That war, as far as the Americans are concerned, is over. But his name remains on the list. The problem, however, gets further complicated by the circumstances in which the U.S. is leaving or abandoning Afghanistan. Now, they have about 6,000 soldiers, all right, but in the airport, and they need to evacuate thousands of people from Afghanistan out. If they were to do anything like taking out, this fellow Khalil Haqqani or Sirajuddin Haqqani, who's supposed to have entered Kabul, or any of the other fellows whose names are there on the terror list, then, you will have a horrible situation in Kabul with all these fellows, attacking the Americans, attacking all the expatriates, attacking everybody who needs to be evacuated, and it will be the worst massacre in the last 300 years, maybe. It'll remind you of what Nader Shah and Genghis Khan and everybody else used to do. Even the 1842 British embassy incident and their withdrawal from Afghanistan will pale before what is going to happen now. And this will happen in front of televised cameras. So, look, let's face it, the American hands are tied right now. Until and unless the evacuation is completed, you cannot expect them to take any hostile action worth the name in Afghanistan for the foreseeable future. At best, what might happen going forward is maybe once the evacuation is complete, then they'll see how the Taliban are behaving. And maybe at that point of time, we'll have to wait and see whether the Americans actually surrender even more before the terrorists and give them money and give them all sorts of, appease them, do a Chamberlain once again before these fellows and give them whatever they want in the hope that they don't attack the Americans, or the Americans and the rest of the West and the rest of the civilized world decide that, okay, fine, there's been a setback, a major setback, but the world will not accept what these people stand for. I think the answers to those questions will come after about a month or so. I don't think anybody who's looking for those answers right now at this moment is going to get them.
Yes, but I mean, as a matter of fact, the Haqqani and Al-Qaeda have also had a long history together, and one could argue that they are intertwined, and it is highly unlikely that they will cut ties. But yes, too soon to reach any conclusions. Thank you, Sushant Sareen, for speaking to us.